We are live on the Dimers Sports Betting Podcast. It's your boy Greg, Dave here with me as always. I am extra energized today. Third cup of coffee, but also I can smell the madness in the air. Postseason hoops is on my screen, Dave. It feels good. How are you today?
I'm good, Greg. It's a beautiful day out. We haven't had weather like this in cold New England in quite some time. I almost went outside to do this, but I ran out of time to bring my stuff out there and set up. But I am getting a little confused here. What's with the Bears get up here? Does Detroit Lions Nation know what you're doing?
Detroit Lions Nation is very unaware of what I'm doing. This is simply a comfy shirt. It was part of my pro Ben Johnson bit all playoff run. And this morning I was just like, you know what? I missed the comfort. I've had multiple questions on this today. Probably not a good look for my fandoms.
Yeah, it's okay. We've all been there. I still find myself wearing the Lions shirt that I had to buy as a result of our Thursday night football contest from time to time. It is a clean stuff around the house shirt. I wouldn't be caught dead outside of my property in it, but I get you. I wear it, you know.
I don't know if you run into this issue, but the problem with my current phase of life is most of my comfy shirts my wife takes and sleeps in without telling me. So I just watch them disappear. You gotta milk the ones you have. You can't have this one, Mal.
Yeah, my hoodies are our hoodies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, we have a big show in store today. We'll talk wins from the weekend as always. NFL free agency is firing on all cylinders right now. So we'll talk through some of the biggest developments, changes, new signings in our favorite sport. But we don't discriminate. We've got the NBA King of the Court promotion as always to talk to. I've got college hoops picks for you for Tuesday night and Wednesday as conference tournaments roll on. And it's the players in the PGA Tour this weekend. We've got picks for you there. Let's start with some things that you should have bet from last week.
Should have bet that.
The Dimers motto was all over Akshay Bhatia live last weekend in the golf world, and Bhatia was just out of his mind for a couple days over the weekend.
Yeah, seriously. It's really nice when the pre-tourney stuff doesn't come through that we find a very good number live, not even like a +3, +400 on a guy who's short, +1200 with him after day two. Started off pretty far back. He was still 5 back when the model found this value. So it was a really nice play. We talked about it in the Discord. I posted it on social and there was a little chatter. Are we going to take it? I talked about taking him top 5. One of the guys in there basically convinced me to also take him top 10. To win. So we got a nice little hit there, no matter where you took Bhatia once the model found the value. Unfortunately for Daniel Berger, I did grab him live early on. So I was basically in a spot where I was like, one of these two is going to come out in the playoff. I kind of just let it happen, though, and worked out in our favor for Bhatia. Also, if you keep an eye on the socials, you would have seen that Jason posted the Jokic triple-double last night. Plus money, not often that you find him at that. The guy leads the league in them. I think he's got something like 34 this season. We projected him clearly over that, not even right at it with the assist, a full assist over double digits, and he comes through at +115. That was also tied into the leg of Jason's second day of the 10K challenge, which we are currently running on social and in the Discord. Day 3 has been posted in there. If you jump in there and check that out, I'm sure he will follow up on social at some point as well. But overall, pretty nice couple of hits for the model since we last met on the show.
You got to love it. Great to see that. And an important reminder, if you listen to this show and find any of the insights that we bring to this program valuable, you should follow Dimers on social media as well, at DimersCom on X or Twitter. And that's where you would have seen the Jokic triple-double, the Jace discovered as showing value according to the model. And if you want all of the model's insights in real time, whenever you want them, you have it 24 hours a day, courtesy of Dimers Pro. Make sure you get it with 50% off if you use promo code podcast for your first purchase of Dimers Pro. All right, let's go right to the NFL free agent mill here. Plenty of changes, some big names, some surprises, some not so surprises. Let's start with Tua Tagovailoa, who we knew the writing was on the wall. He was out of Miami, but he is headed to Atlanta. Dave, what's your reaction here?
I think he might be the big winner early on, honestly. It kind of remains to be seen how this shakes out, but I mean, the Dolphins are going to eat almost $100 million in dead cap space. obviously, I think they had to move on. So, McDaniel's gone, Tua's gone, Tyreek's gone. You're basically hitting the reset button. You have a couple key skill position players, but other than that, it's looking like a pretty big new era in Miami. But Tua needed a fresh start. I don't think there was any debate about that. And this seems like a pretty good landing spot with some great skill position players, kind of a bit of a one-for-one transition from the Waddle A-Chain to Drake London, Bijan, sort of in the same tier of, type of player. You also get Kyle Pitts coming off the career season. 2 times Coach of the Year Kevin Stefanski is there now. You should have the inside track to the starting job with Michael Penix's injury as he's still recovering from the ACL tear. No more cold weather games for him. I think it's a good spot for him. We have to see how well he hits the reset button, but things could have been worse for him. He could have ended up in purgatory places, and this isn't quite that. This is a division wide open. They have the longest odds at plus 390, but it's plus money all the way through there, and I think they could be a little bit of a sleeper at that spot. Might not be talking about them in that position after the draft and, come week 1.
Yeah, I could see it. I wouldn't be stunned. All right, I want to talk Mike Evans next to San Francisco. This one's got my attention. I feel like the Niners can employ plenty of different names. They can employ no names, and I take them seriously as a contender, just given the way they are structured organizationally. But this is a big name. Mike Evans, after setting some records in Tampa Bay, I don't know if this is kind of the twilight portion of his career or what. I still think he can be an impact player. And man, this is the biggest name in the receiving room that we've seen in San Francisco in quite a while. No shade at Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk, but Evans is a Hall of Famer, and I'm not sure they've had one of those out wide in quite a while. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, same. I don't. The fall off in the NFL can come quickly, so who knows? This could be the end of it for Mike Evans or not. He didn't really look like that. He's had his share of injuries. Maybe not the best investment for the Niners after the season they just had to go to a player who missed most of the season with injuries, but they needed kind of that contested catch, aggressive, big-bodied player after Kittle got hurt, and to replace the production that they didn't have at all with the ghost of Brandon Ayuk last year. So I think it's a solid move. I guess we'll see if Evans, continues that 1,000-yard production that he only missed because of injury last year, or if this is going to be kind of the final stop on the tour of the career for Mike Evans. But it's a good fit, I think, and they definitely needed, like you said, they haven't had a Hall of Fame type talent like that in quite some time. So they needed it. Yeah.
Yep. You need to have some stars to make Super Bowl runs, and hopefully he still has plenty left in the tank. Speaking of stars and Super Bowl runs, how about Kenneth Walker, who is headed to flank Patrick Mahomes with the Kansas City Chiefs? Okay, we all thought Kenneth Walker was out of Seattle, but I don't know that we thought he would end up in this offense. I am nervous as someone who thought the Chiefs era might be dead. I don't think this fixes all of their problems, but it's the most dynamic backfield ground game guy Mahomes has played with in his time here. What do you expect?
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the single best player that is going to be behind the line running the ball since Kareem Hunt's first season that, ended unfortunately for him and terribly so, but it's they have not had that type of running production since Ken Walker or since then. And they were trying to get by with this cobbled together backfield of Pacheco, who just didn't look, he was never very good, but he didn't look quite the same after the injury. Kareem Hunt, round 2 and round 3 was just plodding along, getting short yardage, not even cracking like 30, 40 rushing yards in most games. So this is the most dynamic player they've had like that in some time. Kudos to Ken Walker for parlaying that Zach Charbonnet void of an opportunity into this payday. He's now a top 5 paid back. Almost 30 million of his 43 million is guaranteed. Should be a good fit for him as long as the Chiefs, kind of shore up their other issues that they, have poked through over the past couple of years. But probably the more like eye raising, I think, of all the notifications I got to my phone, this is the one that was like, oh, wow. Like going straight from the Super Bowl to the team that's had the most Super Bowl appearances basically in the past decade. So probably a good fit, but TBD.
Pretty crazy. At minimum, I'm excited to see what Andy Reid can do with Kenneth Walker. And as someone who watched Kenneth Walker in college at Michigan State, he has some passing game upside I don't think we've seen, at least the ceiling of, right? I know you love to give off some Kenneth Walker reception ladders down the stretch of the NFL season. I think we could see some untapped upside there, possibly even see him split out as a receiver at times. And yeah, that's a fun ad, fun landing spot. On Pacheco quickly too, I saw he has signed with Detroit, my Detroit Lions. Very curious to see what he does in the David Montgomery role. I do not think he is nearly as effective as he was when he was fully healthy. If he was, I don't know that the Chiefs would be signing Le'Veon Bell right now, but I do know this. He is sort of your throwback run through 7 guys backs. And we watched David Montgomery work really well as thunder to Jahmyr Gibbs's lightning. Pacheco in a minute split backfield split carry situation where he just gets to be the goal line back has me intrigued. Do you have any quick Pacheco thoughts?
Yeah, it's just had a few, but then when you mentioned the thunder to the lightning, he feels like a little bit more of the like far away little bit of thunder to what will probably be Jahmyr Gibbs's triple lightning strikes. I think he's going to spell him more than fully take on that David Montgomery role. Just pure speculation, but I think even Montgomery showed a lot more upside than Pacheco in the past couple seasons. But you never know what happens when someone changes scenery. It could be all he needed, really.
Yeah, I hope that you're right. I think fantasy owners alike hope that you are right. All right, let's stay in the running back world. Travis Etienne is headed to New Orleans. And of all of the acquisitions this week, I think this is the one I am most confused about. Does this mean the writing is on the wall with Kamara?
I think so. I mean, he's probably gone. Etienne's a very similar type of player. I get it. Kamara looked not washed, but kind of a shell of himself. And Etienne had his best season that he's ever had. Whether that is a sign of things to come or a bit of an anomaly, I don't really know. I'm going to say it's probably more of the outlier based on just what we've seen. However, operating now under a bit of a different style of offense could change things for him. But this one doesn't really do too much for me. I'm more curious to see what happens to Kamara than I am to see what Etienne does with the Saints.
Yeah, the hard part for me is nothing about the Kamara experience, at least in the last 3 seasons, makes me want to believe it's a good fit for Etienne. I mean, if I'm Travis or his agent, outside of the paycheck, I didn't love how Kamara was used. Like, if that's the pitch, come be our Kamara. I'm just like, okay, is he watching a 3-headed backfield split carries? Is he used as a receiver more than he is a back? Like, Kamara has not had a good year in a while, and he has a lot of durability, clearly, that he's still playing at a high level. But it's been one of my least favorite positional groupings, the New Orleans backfield, in a long time. Yeah. I still believe Travis Etienne is a very talented player. Maybe, if Jacksonville decided that's not worth investing in, I think that's one I wouldn't want to touch from a fantasy perspective next year, but I guess we'll wait and see. And how about Pittsburgh for our final little update here? Couple solid additions. Pittman and Dowdle have been added to the Steelers fold. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Dowdle, Warren should make a solid 1-2 punch. Pittman's, a good receiver who, like many of the guys, maybe just needed a bit of a shakeup here. The Colts committed to Alec Pierce going forward, so he's going to be their clear number 1. And Pittman's shown a lot of upside, dealt with some injuries, some poor quarterback situations. So maybe this is what he needed. But, the quarterback situation isn't much better here. They're kind of working backwards in Pittsburgh. I feel like getting your running back and your wide receiver, and you don't know who's starting at quarterback. Also kind of interesting moves for a team that I don't think we can reasonably expect to be like contending even. They got on a really lucky run, I think, last year, and were handed some favors by the Ravens early on with their poor start. So I just don't think we're going to see really anything good come out of this. And it's just very Steelers to make 2 moves like in the early days of free agency and none of them be splash moves. Like, you got a running back, but not like a mind-blowing running back who is available, not even the Etienne. You went with Rico Dowdle, who had like a nice 6-game stretch, and who's a very Steelers-esque running back too. And then Michael Pittman, who is good, but feels like he still hasn't hit his potential, or if he has, it's kind of not enough. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. It's like when Pittman's been the wide receiver 1 in Indy, they're not good. And then when he's like wide receiver 3, it's like, okay, now we're a little better. You kind of wonder what his role in all of that is. I like both these ads. I would love them if they had a competent quarterback. I mean,
Yeah.
is Will Howard good? Are they going to draft a quarterback? Is there another move coming that we don't see? If you convince me they're going to get a quarterback I believe in, I actually think a Metcalf, Pittman, maybe Roman Wilson emerges as wide receiver 3 in the slot. That's a pretty fun room. And Dowdle at minimum is a great running back too. Obviously, I don't love Warren, so I think you're hoping Dowdle overtakes him. Who knows if he's capable or not? I totally agree with you. He's a very Pittsburgh-oriented feel to him. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm intrigued. Let's wait 3 months and see if they have answers at quarterback,
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, more moves to come too. So
right, we are far from the finish line here in the NFL offseason. So, all right, there we go. There's our update for free agency week. We will continue to cover some of the bigger storylines in the NFL world as we get closer to the return of football in the fall. Let's go to the NBA next, where there's been plenty of excitement this week. We had Jokic SGA, the MVP, off last night. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with a crazy game and then a buzzer-beating game winner that I would argue probably cements his MVP candidacy. We're going to do King of the Court here, but before we do you have any thoughts on that thrilling game last night?
I mean, yeah, if there was a game that was going to kind of settle that debate, it was probably it. Granted, he was like minus 350 and Jokic was like plus 600 in a very distant second with one game of availability to spare to become ineligible. So I think it pretty much locks it up. But I never brought this up in our Celtics chat, but I do think there was a good case to be made for Jaylen Brown for a long time, and he was nowhere to be seen in the odds, just given I feel like he's the definition of most valuable player this year. If they didn't have him, the Celtics would certainly be basically tanking or at least very much clinging to a play-in spot. But obviously that's cooked now with Tatum back. I don't think 20 games without him is going to be enough. But I agree. Yeah, definitely solidified that.
Completely agree with the Jaylen Brown shout. I just sat back and was a fan last night. I had no action on the line between Jokic and SGA, and that was just NBA at its best when there's a meaningful moment in the regular season and guys are getting up for it, best of the best. That one got my attention, felt like a playoff game. But tonight, another thing that has my attention and everyone's attention, King of the Court, $2 million pool tonight. Is this one going how last week did, where there's two $1 million pools?
No, that is actually a great question. No, it is one pool of 2 million from now until the end of the season. That's the prize.
So they gave us a gift last week, and now they immediately ripped the gift away. That's what happened.
Yes, they did. Yeah, yeah.
It's okay. We'll take $2 million as a consolation. Yeah. It's still an upgrade over the typical $1 million pool. If you're unfamiliar with how DraftKings King of the Court works, it's my favorite promotion in sports betting. Shout out to DraftKings. $5. If you bet that on any player prop market, points, threes, assists, rebounds, anything, use your King of the Court token on the bet. And that player leads all players that night in points, rebounds, plus assists. You and everyone else who picked that player will split a bonus bet pool. Tonight it is $2 million. So let's take a look at some top overall targets for tonight. Where do we start?
So I'll just quickly preface this with a mention that last week's 3 winners all came straight from the top 6 overall projections. Both Luka and Banchero featured in this segment. Only about 25% of the winners have come outside the top 10. I think actually even the top 8 of the projection. So moving forward, I think I'll keep the long shots, I should say, with air quotes, to within that range just for the sake of trying to keep things most likely to happen. We only got a few left here, so we haven't had much luck with the deep cuts, although a few have tapped in. So, any night somebody can win it, but we'll just keep focused on the top 8, I think, moving forward, unless somebody really jumps out in a great matchup or something. But unsurprisingly, Luka Doncic leads the way again, facing the Timberwolves. got the highest PRA projection of the night at 51.0, only player clearing 50 by a significant amount to about 7.5 PRA over the next player, Jalen Johnson. You got a 5-time King of the Court winner in him, claimed nearly a third of all promotions. So if you only bet Luka consistently, you would have returned about $180 total in bonus bets over the course of the season. Don't be surprised if he has another one or two. Might end up as, a 7-8-time winner by the end of the season. He leads all players in projected points here as well, 34.6. Also assists, ranked third. Let me just double check if that's changed. Fourth now on the night at 8.5 behind Cade Cunningham, Jalen Johnson, and Josh Giddey. Interesting stat to target for me, I think, might be his threes. He's ranked 3.6 projected threes, which is the top, tied with Con Knippel atop the board for the Dimers model. Minnesota ranks 28th in opponent 3-point percentage, second in attempts. So they're not giving up a lot of attempts, but they are allowing a lot of accurate shooters to hit those. He hit 5 and 7 in his last 2 games, absolutely chucking up shots with at least 14 attempts in both of those, 10 plus attempts in 4 straight. So he's been shooting the ball from deep, and might have a decent matchup tonight against the Timberwolves, who allow a lot of, or the most accurate 3-point shooters pretty much. We'll say they are pretty good in all the other categories, not really any red flags or particularly glaring weaknesses, but it's Luka and he can just do Luka things. Second, Jalen Johnson, Hawks versus Mavericks, got him projected for 44.2 PRA. Might be the best matchup on the night positionally and just as far as defense is concerned. He's got the second most triple doubles in the NBA this season with 11. Did he win King of the Court? Actually, I should have put that in my notes here. I don't believe he won. I think he split the pot. He did. He split the pot with, ironically, Cooper Flagg. They're playing the Mavs tonight, but that's his only victory atop the board, even though he's putting in tons of games where he's clearing 50 PRA and all these triple doubles. Does have 3 games over 50 since February. It just seems to be putting him in on the wrong days and not Tuesdays. But Dallas ranks 26th in points, 24th in boards, 30th in assists allowed. That's dead last over their last 15 games. Gets even worse versus forwards. They are 29th or 30th in all 3. And for a triple-double at plus 345, last I looked on DraftKings, it looks like a pretty good play. You don't have to go after him. I would probably just chase Johnson's boards if you're going after a single stat. But if you want like a little long shot, he's been around plus 200, plus 220 many nights. So it seems like a good number for him. Third, Cade Cunningham versus the Nets, projected at 41.6 PRA. I would consider him leading this next tier of players, so to speak. If you look at the projections, you've got Luka over 50, Jalen Johnson over almost 45, and then about 5 players within 39 and 41 PRA. But I'd call that the next tier, and Cade leads that. Came into the All-Star break pretty hot, 6 straight double-doubles, 4 games with 13-plus assists. Some weird, inconsistent spots, though. He had 1 rebound the other day, only has 5 total rebounds over his last 2 games, 10-point performance the other night in a really close loss to the Cavs where they could have used, 4 more points. They've lost 3 straight, but they do play the Nets tonight, so they should be pretty motivated to, compete heavily with the Celtics chasing them down for that top seed. Brooklyn does rank top 5 versus guards in all 3 points, rebounds, and assist categories over their last 15. So it might not be the best matchup for him, despite them being, a basement dwelling team. If you're going to go after him, I'd probably go after his assists. He leads the whole slate at 10.4. So you're seeing more upside with him there than in the other categories. Only 5.8 boards, 24.9 points is solid, but it is outside our top 5 scorers. So if you're going after a single Cade Cunningham stat tonight, I'd probably look at the assists. And then moving to the 2 long shots, like I said, we're going to keep within that top of the board still, but players who are probably pulling a little less attention. Start with Giannis against the Suns, projected for 40 PRA on the dot. Dealt with injuries, trade drama this season, so he has had kind of a limited sample size here. But since he returned from his latest injury absence, his PRA totals have gone up in 3 consecutive games. This is very minor, but his play has ticked up by 1 minute per after they were kind of easing him along. I think another 2 days off here since his last game, he might be pretty well rested and getting possibly his highest minutes since he came back. Model did correctly predict that he'd snap his pretty long consecutive streak of going under 25.5 points the other night, included that in an article. He had his highest scoring game, highest PRA game since he returned even. Gets the Suns. He ranked 27th in opponent rebounds, so that would probably be the one number I'd target. He's 9.3 boards last I checked, which is surprisingly not even a top 5 mark, almost outside the top 10. But it's the highest in the game by a significant amount. 2 full boards higher than Bobby Portis, 3 higher than the top Suns player. And like I said, with 2 days of rest heading in, it's possible that Giannis gets back to his usual tricks here. He might be the guy I go with tonight. It's probably him or Jalen Johnson for me personally. And then just looking at our final guy, Anthony Edwards, who kind of funny to see him in what a long shot territory, but it just happens to be that's where he's shaking out tonight. Ranks 8th overall at 37.3 PRA. Rare company with Luka and Banchero as multi-king of the court winners this season, as recently as last week with a $185 bonus bet, leading the whole slate with 49 PRA. He's a top 3 scorer in the NBA, but his complimentary assists stats are pretty modest. He ranks 81st in rebounds, 64th in assists. So it really all has to come together for him to do this. Or like he did in both previous wins, score 40 plus points. He scored 41 and 44 in both of his King of the Court appearances. So I guess if you're going to play him, you might as well take Anthony Edwards to score 40 points. It seems like the only way he's going to lead the slate unless it's a lower PRA total. And obviously there's only one winner tonight instead of 3. Granted, he was the top overall guy last week anyway. We do project him for 28.7 points, which is second on the entire slate. So, well behind 40, but it is second, and it's behind only Luka, who they're going against head-to-head tonight. So should be a little extra motivated, could bring out a little bit more competitiveness in him. The Lakers have been pretty good defensively versus guards. They did allow 3 straight 30-point games coming out of the All-Star break, none since. So they've been pretty good lately. I don't know if he's going to do it because of, things kind of seem to be pointing away from him. But if you're going to go after him, I'd probably just chase his 40 points and see if you can do it for a third straight time. Not third straight, but third time.
I think you nailed the pitch there. And you said the word competitiveness. That's Anthony Edwards to a T. He gets up for matchups. He will not hide from that. If you listen to him in All-Star Week press conferences, you understand how this guy is wired from his core to his heart to his brain. It goes back to even when he was drafted, the narrative was this guy doesn't even like basketball. No, he likes competing. And when there's a matchup, there's a reason for him to get up for. You see a totally different version of Anthony Edwards. You see a different guy in the playoffs than you do in the regular season. I don't know if that's worth some big picture dialogue at some point, but I know this. He's infinitely more valuable in games where he cares who he's going up against. Luka Doncic is one of those for him. It just is. I wouldn't call them rivals per se, but Anthony Edwards, anytime there's a player worthy of conversations of who's better, Ant or the opponent, especially if they're similar positionally, he just finds ways to give his best effort. And I think with the Lakers, right, defensively, absolutely, the numbers would say it's a tough matchup. Can Ant find ways to hunt Luka Doncic in this game? Or are they going to be able to hide Luka? That would be the question for me. I think the answer is yes. And I love the pitch of betting him up in points ladders tonight, or just take 40 plus. I'll be betting 40 plus. You've convinced me. And he's also my play for King of the Court tonight.
Nice. Let's go. I'm probably going to ride with Giannis and hope he kind of, does a little unexpected. I think he'll be a little overlooked tonight. But there's some really nice, 4-1 long shots here that line up pretty well with these matchups and some of these projections. Jalen Johnson triple-double. We have him projected right at the triple-double, and he's, what did I say, plus 385 or so. Anthony Edwards, 40 plus points is about 4-1. Giannis's 10 plus boards is plus money. So anything over that, which might be the best matchup for him tonight, is in some pretty good plus money territory. So again, as always, lots of things to take away from this besides just playing King of the Court. And I'll have some of those angles on my card for sure. Hopefully dropping some winners in the Discord later.
Absolutely. All right. I look forward to it. Let's speak it into existence. Let's stay in the basketball world, but pivot to college hoops. Conference tournaments are underway. We've got all of the big power conferences kicking off their tournaments tonight and tomorrow. We've also got the mid-major tournaments, all those conferences where there's one team that will head to the NCAA tournament. Whoever wins the conference tournament gets that auto qualifier. Those are wrapping up and some are beginning. This whole week is chaos, but we're seeing teams clinch bids to the NCAA tournament every night right now. It's a beautiful time of year. Again, Dimers Pro will give you the insights to all these games, give you best bets for all the games, big and small, probabilities, final score predictions, player props, projections, all of it. So tap in with Dimers Pro to see. But for tonight, we have curated 3 picks that the Dimers Pro model has identified as best bets that are also on my personal card. Let's get into it.
There you go. I'll just pull up the full predictions. How's that? And
That's
tell me where you want me to go.
Beautiful. Let's can you pull up Gonzaga first?
Yes.
Tonight on Tuesday night, late tip-off. There we go. Okay, Gonzaga hosts, I guess hosts isn't the right word, but they play Santa Clara tonight in the conference championship for the West Coast Conference. This is the final year of the West Coast Conference before it implodes on itself and everybody takes bids to other leagues. Gonzaga has dominated this league for 30-plus years. Mark Few has been the single most important figure in the West Coast Conference, and it would only be fitting if Gonzaga goes out on top. But emotional heartstring ploy aside, Gonzaga dodged a rather large bullet here, facing Santa Clara instead of St. Mary's. St. Mary's has been their nemesis, and if you are a West Coast Conference fan, you were certainly hoping for one final championship game of Gonzaga-St. Mary's. In the end, Santa Clara had other plans. They upset them last night, and I think Gonzaga is very happy that that is exactly how this played out, because St. Mary's has been a serious thorn in their side in a way that Santa Clara just hasn't. Gonzaga's 2-0 against Santa Clara this year. They beat them by 12 at home. They beat them by 8 on the road at Santa Clara. We're just asking Gonzaga on a neutral floor here to beat Santa Clara by exactly as much as they did on the road in a hostile environment. I think that's a pretty reasonable outcome here. Gonzaga is the much better team. You could make the argument that Santa Clara is the more desperate team. They will not be in the NCAA tournament unless they win this game. But again, this is a moment in time. This final West Coast Conference championship is going to be incredibly meaningful to everyone in this Gonzaga locker room. This is not a, hey, let's just stay healthy situation. This is a, let's do our best and win this game situation. And I think Gonzaga has looked the part recently. They won by 9 against Oregon State in the first game. They're getting healthier. And again, just do what you did on the road at Santa Clara on a neutral with a lot of Gonzaga fans in attendance. I see it as a high probability outcome, and the Dimers model certainly agrees. No sweet spot, it looks like, for this one, but a 55% probability and a 4% edge.
Yep. Yeah. 55%, 4.3, almost even money on the spread.
We can work with that. All right, that's the only game for tonight that I'm going to highlight, but I do want to take a look at 2 that are taking place on Wednesday, beginning with that Kentucky LSU game at the top. This is the first game of the SEC tournament, and Kentucky, who spent $22 million on a roster for this season, has had the season from hell. I mean, they are under loud scrutiny. They finished 9th in the SEC. They are the 9 seed in this tournament. And really the only way for any sort of positive takeaways from this season from hell is if Kentucky makes a run in the postseason, beginning with this SEC tournament. The reality with this Kentucky team is, with a 19-12 record, I don't think they're as bad as the record makes it feel. They've got some impressive wins. They've beaten top 20 opponents in Vanderbilt, Tennessee, and Arkansas, all in the final 2 months of the regular season. They've showed up for some of their bigger moments after navigating injury concerns and the loss of their starting point guard and starting center way back in the non-conference. I think they have a clearer picture on what their identity is now than they did the one time they played LSU this season, which was maybe the most chaotic result of the year for Kentucky. It took a full court Christian Laettner style buzzer beating heave to beat LSU by 1 at LSU. Now, look, I don't know that there's much LSU can replicate from that matchup that worked. I think there was a lot of randomness involved in that game. And I think Kentucky, of all teams they could see early in this tournament to sort of get their feet wet, I think they'd love to see the team that almost embarrassed them 2 months ago when they were still navigating those injury concerns. So I expect this to be Kentucky's best foot forward at 7.5 as the line. Dimers gives that a 57% probability of hitting, one of the higher probability plays you can find in the next 48 hours. And if you are looking, if you're a parlay bettor like myself, having Kentucky money line involved as sort of the anchor of a parlay, I think is a pretty good idea in this game as well. I would personally be stunned if they do not find a way to create some separation between them and the Tigers.
Nice. Yeah. And you can see high edge here too at 5.1% and 57% probability. So very good value according to the model. If anyone's confused why you don't see high edge with the Kentucky money line, it's because 5% is a significantly smaller difference at those odds. So it's not quite nearly as much value in the odds as compared to the spread.
There you go. All right. Added intel. Thank you, sir. Let's look at one more for Wednesday. I got my eye this time on Rutgers and Minnesota in the Big Ten tournament. Now, this is likely going to be one of the uglier games in the early days of conference tournament week. However, these teams are sort of in different spots right now. Rutgers is playing some of their best basketball, believe it or not. They have won 4 of their final 7 games, and they went 6-14 in the Big Ten schedule. 4-3 in a 7-game stretch is like a very noticeable turnaround for this team. If you watch them, I think they're a completely different team now than they were in the beginning portion of this. Tariq Francis has emerged as a legitimate star, and then Lino Mark, who is a true freshman guard, was not playing early in the season, and he's giving them amazing minutes night to night right now. I think this team will have something to prove, feeling that they had such a horrible season, and they're kind of, feeling like we're a different team now than we were, and we're at full strength. Where meanwhile, the situation Minnesota is currently in, they actually had a pretty great year by Minnesota standards. This was Nico Medved's first year as a head coach. They went 8-12 in conference play and really picked off a lot of the better teams in the league. I think they are coming into this game very much from a sense of, well, we had a good year and we're really hurt right now. If you look at the personnel that's being played every game for Minnesota right now, they have 5.5 players available. They are playing their starters 40, 39, 37, 36 minutes. And then poor Kai Shinholster, who is a freshman off the bench, who is not a rotation player, is playing 8 minutes a game, just trying to spell guys whenever needed. It's a miracle that this team hasn't fallen apart more down the stretch. And look, they played a few weeks ago at the end of February. Minnesota stomped Rutgers. Minnesota was not as hurt as they are now in that game. And Minnesota hit 58% of their threes in that game. That is not normal. That's not likely to happen again. If they shoot their normal percent on the season and with some fatigue concerns that are very real with this team, I think we see Rutgers get some revenge in this spot. One thing I would note as well, I do think the experience of the head coaches could come into play. This is the opening round of the Big Ten tournament. Steve Peichel has been a coach in this league for 10 years. He has had successful runs in this tournament. Mind you, Nico Medved is in year 1 at Minnesota, his first attempt at a big boy tournament. I have a lot of respect for him as a head coach, but is a team with 5 healthy players really intending to make a run in a single elimination tournament where you need to win 5 games in 5 days? It's not the spot for a team that feels accomplished already coming into it. So I have Rutgers. I like them on the money line. Now we still show a 65% probability of a Minnesota win. That's not an edge play. That's not advising betting money line on either side in this game. But Rutgers plus 4.5, that's a 55% probability outcome.
Yeah, all 3 of those 55% or higher. That's a pretty wild case, and something I think the average person might not realize when they're just looking over the numbers is how depleted that team actually is. That's insane.
It's a bummer, too, because they really had done some impressive things, picked off some of the better teams in this league, and they've lost 3 of their top 8 2 starters that were huge members of this offense that, you can't overcome that. So
No, that's significant.
yeah, it's a bummer. But all right, there you have it. My favorite time of year, 1 play for Tuesday night, 2 for Wednesday. We'll have more for you as this week progresses. And of course, Sunday is the selection show. The NCAA tournament matchups will be announced. We'll have plenty of coverage of college hoops for you as we head into next week. Make sure you throw us a like, subscribe to this podcast so that you can get notifications every single time these episodes drop. Sometimes there are quick turnarounds, just like with King of the Court, where you need to get your bets in for tonight. We usually put these shows out in the afternoon, so you won't want to miss the latest alerts every time we have a new rendition of the Dimer Sports Betting Podcast for you. Let's go to golf next. We've got the players this week, but as we alluded to earlier in the show, it was Akshay Bhatia who came out on top last weekend. What other takeaways did you have from the Arnold Palmer Invitational last week?
Yeah, I mean, as mentioned, like really impressive comeback. He can be a bit volatile, which is why I almost didn't bet on him to win. Like, I took, as soon as I saw that edge, I took him for top 5. And then it required someone chirping it up in the Discord to be like, we going with Bhatia? I was like, you know what? All right, let's do it. We discussed his classic Sunday meltdown scenarios, but I mean, since 2 missed cuts to open the season, he's finished T3, T6, T16, and now with a win. So he has rebounded from whatever was getting after him early season, and he should definitely be on a lot of radars going forward with that form. Not a whole lot going on for the pre-tourney picks from the Arnold Palmer. Henley was one of our top golfers to watch. He finished T6. Harry Hall was a huge 120 to 1 long shot. Also had the top 20 edge at plus 270. Talked about that. He finished T9. So a couple bright spots, just not really at the top of the board. Tommy Fleetwood, he was 1 shot away from getting into the top 20 on moving day. Proceeded to put on an absolute disaster class. I didn't even look where he ended up. He was second to last the last time I saw it, like plus 5, and that was the last I checked in on him. Wouldn't have cashed our top 20 parlay anyway because Rory withdrew before his 3rd round, but it spoiled any fun ladder plays on a guy who has been in really good form and the model has really enjoyed this season, but that's okay. He'll be back in the mix sooner than later, perhaps even this week. I would chalk that up to more of a hiccup than any real concerns moving forward for Fleetwood. But we move on to the unofficial 5th major, which is the Players at TPC Sawgrass. Massive $25 million purse on the line, almost the entire top 50 of the top ranked golfers, and an iconic Pete Dye course. It is really no surprise why this is considered golf's unofficial 5th major. But I will say these days there is one big distinction between majors and non-majors, and that is the live golfers. So while this one has the allure of a major, the defectors will have to wait until the Masters to make an appearance on this show, which I am looking forward to. It does add a fun extra narrative, and our head-to-head parlays for the majors are usually live versus PGA matchups, so those always get a little extra competitive, even if you don't have a side, they're fun. But so yeah, major field, not quite a major though. And this place has been the home, TPC Sawgrass, and the home of it since 1982. So everybody who's golfed here before is familiar with the layout. Not a lot of changes over the years and over the most recent iterations. It's a 7,352 yard par 72. Offers a lot of high risk, high reward situations. Angled, dog-legged fairways require very careful tee shots. Misses are penalized pretty heavily. The rough is lush. Water is not necessarily in play, but it's basically adjacent to every single hole, most on tour. Second most bunkers on the tour. And it doesn't really reward any one particular style of play. Accuracy is, of course, very important, but power hitters have had success here. Short game kings have had success here. Rewards those who can play smart. But if you are looking for a single separating factor when, comparing odds or other guys in similar tiers, it would be approach play. Guys who set themselves up with good tee shots and then can kind of scramble from the rough if they get there, or shorten things up with the irons, are going to have a slight advantage. 122-man field, cut after 36 holes for the top 65 in ties. Should be some pretty good action this week. Just a couple of notable storylines before we dive into predictions. Rory withdrew before teeing off his 3rd round last weekend, as I mentioned, with a back injury. Believe that was related to some muscle spasms. He's plus 1,400 on the books. He's second in our predictions, but he's getting treated still, and he has not arrived yet. He's supposedly eyeing a Wednesday arrival. Seems unlikely he doesn't play, but it is something to monitor. He's the reigning champ here and one of only 2 guys who would be chasing Jack Nicklaus as the only 3-time winner of the event. And this event notably comes down to the wire. 5 of the last 6 decided by 1 shot or in a playoff. So don't be surprised if things comes down to the final hole and then some on Sunday in back-to-back weeks. So let's pull up the predictions here and see what the model has for us. Lots of value in this one. And for the sake of time, I am probably just going to highlight a couple guys, look at some long shots, 1 or 2 sleepers and golfers to watch, and then kind of leave the rest to everybody else to dig through the predictions. We'll have some more content on site, so there will be plenty of data from us anyway. But moving to the value, Scottie Scheffler obviously had his ups and downs this year by his standards anyway. He's 18% to win, was plus 500 at Open. He's down to about plus 450 or plus 480, depending where you look, but that is still a slim edge with fair odds at 450. It's notable to say these are the longest odds we've seen on Scotty all year, and he is plus money for a top 5 finish, something we have not seen all year. So I think there's a big spotlight on him this week, especially given his 2-time winning. Or yeah, he's the only other guy who won twice this year. I didn't mention that. I said there was one other, 2023 and 2024. So very recently. Also the 2 lowest scores since 1996 here. So if there might be an event for him to bounce back, it could be this one. Unfortunately, he's struggling on the biggest key factor here, which is approach. He's ranking 88th in the field, but otherwise he's been really good, practically flawless. He's got to snap out of it sometime. It's a place he's dominated, and at his best odds of the year, it does feel like a good spot to go after him. I will certainly be playing his top 5, if nothing else, because he's at plus money, and you basically never get that. He's usually over 50%, and it's a rare opportunity. So Russell Henley, he's 4th here in our overall predictions, also the 4th value on the board. 4.2% to win. Odds have also shortened up a bit. I found him 30 to 1 still on BetMGM, though. He's fair at plus 2280, so that's still a good value. Last week saw him finish T6 at the Arnold Palmer. Save for his miscut at the Genesis, he hasn't finished outside T19 and has 2 top 10s this year. This course feels a little bit like his white whale. He's got a dozen starts here, 6 missed cuts, though, 4 top 25s, and a personal best T13 in 22. Only 1 missed cut in his past 4 or 5, though, so he does seem to be getting a little better. Solid on approach play at 44th in the field this year. Very good 7th ranked in scrambling. All positive rankings around the green, which is somewhere you need to excel. The biggest hit to his game is the driving distance, but it's better to be accurate here than anything. And, maybe he doesn't win, but he's in some really good form, starting to improve sort of over the years here at this course. So it might be a good chance he pushes for his best finish, cracks the top 10. That would be plus 300 at 28% for a little bit of value there. Going slightly down to the next tier of golfers, got to look at Jake Knapp here. Where is he? Right here. 2.3% at 50 to 1. Fair at plus 4250. He withdrew from last week's event before it started due to an illness, but if anything, that might be a little bit of a positive because, one, it's not an injury that's going to carry over to this week, and he got another week off, and he, not a guy who needed last week to get into form. He's got a T11, T5, solo 8, T8, and a solo 6 this year. Absolutely incredible stuff. He finished T45 in 2024 at the Players, T12 last year for a huge improvement. Ranked 2nd overall in strokes gained this season. Difficult to find really any negatives in his analytics, except his driving accuracy is a little under field average, but he's also the top ranked scrambler from the rough. So if he eats one into the rough, we're feeling pretty good on him correcting it and getting right back onto the green. So solid value here on a top 10 contender per the model. If you go even out down to top 20, look at him here at 35%, and he's 20 plus 220. Significantly better odds than every single golfer in this range. So pretty good stuff there. One more guy in this tier I want to look at. Actually about a tier down. A familiar name to this program, Harry Hall at 100.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, another really big odds here. The guy is he's a bit of an enigma. He's weird rounds and whatnot. 1.8% to win, but that's fair again at 55-1. So a huge value. Climbed out of a first round 73 to finish 8 under in a T9 last week. Really good value in the placements, and he would have cashed top 20 and top 10. Similar spot here at 100-1. Will need to overcome his weaknesses, which are approach and dangerous tee shots. He's not a center of the fairway guy. He likes to live quite literally on the edge and see how close he can get. Missed the cut in back-to-back years here, but he is as low as plus 8,000. So seems like a good value, not only just on the model's probability, but a guy who's surprised a few times this year and has significantly lower odds elsewhere. Then just a couple golfers to watch here. Again, guys with no value, but should be on your radar for one reason or another. Colin Morikawa, because of his hot form, with a win, 7th place T7 and a solo 5th in 3 straight after opening with 2 cuts. He's 5th in approach play this season, but you're getting absolutely no value on him here at 2.2% and plus 2,200. Fair would be plus 4,400, but I would be shocked to see him not in contention come the final day. We do have him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, top 7 guy for a top 20 finish, but even look at that, almost even money and only 37%. Just not a lot of value there. Might be a guy who you hope he starts off 1 or 2 holes poorly. You can get a better price on him live. Akshay Bhatia and Daniel Berger, the guys who went to the playoff last week, 4 top 20s, 3 straight, and 2 T9s here at this event for Daniel Berger. Ranks 11th on approach play this season. Might be mentally exhausted from losing a close one, but everything lines up really well for him here. Problem is there's absolutely no value here. He's way down here. I can't even locate him scrolling through here. He's like 0.3 to 0.5%, but he should definitely be on your radar. He's just had a lot of success at this event and is playing really well this year. And last week's champ, Akshay Bhatia, same probability as Harry Hall, half the odds. So he's at the fair price, more or less, that Harry Hall should be. Finished T3 here last year after missing the cut in 2024 on a run of 4 straight top 20 finishes. 3 of those are top 10s with a win this season. Off the tee game is full of red, well below field average, pretty much across the board when it comes to driving, but he's great everywhere else, especially scoring and approach play. Like I said, he's just a little short of fair, right about where you want him, and should be on your radar again. I don't know if he's going back-to-back. This is a guy who only has 3 PGA Tour wins to his name, but should find himself, if things go well for him. He's been in some really good form, as we mentioned. Hoping to get some boosts again at Bet365. Keep your eyes out for those. I did submit them. I won't mention what they are because I don't want to, say anything that doesn't come to pass. But they are guys in here. One's a 2-leg top 20, and one is a guy to win with a boost. So hopefully we'll get those in. We'll be sure to post about that via articles and social if we do. As always, tons of other ways and markets to use this data for. Top 30s, top 40s. Make miscut parlays or sleepers, 3 balls, regional groups. It's up to you. Use these predictions. Use the head-to-head tool. You'll find some good nuggets every week.
Absolutely. More ways to bet golf than most sports. I mean, not that there aren't a lot of ways to bet sport, but you can jump on a tournament live. You can go matchups. You can go 3-ball. You can do round matchups, full tournament matchups, anything pre-tournament. There's plenty of ways to do it. And Dimers helps you do it all. There's a lot of great tools here that are unique in the way they function. The matchup tool is something I've been sending to all my friends. Literally, we had Cam Young over Min-Woo Lee on Sunday, and there was a 20% probability gap between Cam Young pre-tournament beating Min-Woo Lee. He was like 58% likely to win that matchup, and Min-Woo was 30-something, 36, and they were tied going into the final round. They were paired together. And I just screenshot sent to my boys like, hey, this is what we had pre-tournament. Like, this is a huge gap. They're paired together with the final. Let's go for it. And Cam Young ended up winning. He jumped out to an early lead and beat him by 1 stroke in the end. So it's a really fun way to bet. Dave does a bunch of work bringing our golf research for us every week, but it's all just sourcing a lot of the great resources that Dimers presents to you. It makes it really easy. Get Dimers Pro, promo code podcast, get 50% off when you do take advantage. All right, we got another champ of the week up next.
The pro champ of the week.
They did it again, Dave.
I don't know. I don't know. They keep doing it. This is like the fourth time. I actually forgot to load this into the studio. Give me 1 second here, and I'll pull it up. But yeah, Jay Solstice, man. Once again, sharing and cashing, which is what we love to see. We have no rule against repeat winners in here. If you pop into that Discord, whether you share it or not, we want to shout everybody out. But if you share something, look at, I love the timestamps on this. On the left, 7:29 p.m. He shares the 2-legger first basket parlay, Jokic and Nick Claxton. And then on the right at 8:42 p.m., barely an hour later, Nick Claxton, Nikola Jokic cashing in at plus 4,100. At least one other person in the Discord said that. I know. I saw the winner slips in there. Just love to see it. Community working together, using the data, and helping each other out. So shout out once again, 4-time Timers Pod feature, champ of the week, Jay Solstice.
We're gonna need to start sending out yellow jackets. It's like
Yeah.
like the green jacket, the mat. If you're a 4-timer, I think you get a yellow suit coat courtesy of Dimers.
Seriously, I might have to do something.
We'll call
He's got a special little badge, as you can see, from making the Hall of Fame. But yeah, at this rate, might need something else.
Yeah, we're gonna need physical gear. We're gonna need a statue at some point if he does this again. Jay Solstice, you have our respect, my friend. Well done again with the first baskets. All right, what else do we have going on with Dimers this week? Indian Wells is getting down to the wire.
Yep, we actually have to check in on our latest parlay shortly after this wraps. But we got Osaka, Sinner, and Zverev, I believe, are the plays today. Round of 16s going on right now. And then, obviously narrowing down to the quarters, semis, and the finals shortly after that. Keep your eyes out for more golf content before Thursday's tee off. I'm going to post a power rankings article tonight shortly after this show. I'm going to try and do that moving forward. I'm working on putting together a little formula where I weight differently our Dimers in-house golf rankings, the top probabilities, and the current FedEx Cup standings. And I'm working on my own little power rankings formula that mostly just for fun, but to give a little extra insight on who's hot and who's not. So look out for that top 10 later today on site. Couple more articles. If we have the boosts, hopefully those will be up, and we'll have plenty more stuff there. Keep in mind that it's on the East Coast. We got a big field and the Florida weather. There could be delays. Hopefully the clock change will help us out in a little bit there, but just something to keep in mind. Always a possibility that we will not have updated predictions for one round. Usually that will happen on round 2 or 3 because with a larger fields. After the cut, rarely an issue. March Madness nearly here. We'll have content on site, on social. You've got futures probabilities up now. Those will change to the bracket simulation once Selection Sunday's out and the draw is finalized. And from there, we're just going to keep rolling. Keep an eye out for some good podcast stuff with Greg and myself. Stuff on site, social, everywhere we can hit it. We're going to hit March Madness until we can't anymore.
Love it. Yep. It's my favorite time of year. Meaningful basketball on at all times of day. We got the ACC tournament on my screen right there. It's 3 p.m. Eastern right now, Dave. You got to love it. Stay tuned. Follow Dimers for all of this. We'll have plenty of updates closer to the Final Four. Thank you as always, Dave. Gamble responsibly, everybody, and we will see you again later this week. Listen up.